I still remember the sound of their laughter echoing down the hall. It was the kind of laughter that doesn't invite you in, it leaves you standing there, smiling like you don't know it's about you. It was my first week at the new company. I'd left everything, my small hometown, my safe but stagnant job, to chase a bigger dream in the city. I was 34, newly divorced, and praying that this new chapter would finally bring me peace. I joined a marketing firm that, on paper, looked like a family. But I learned pretty fast that not every team acts like one. My first morning, I wore a simple navy dress and carried a second-hand tote with my laptop inside. I greeted everyone with a smile, but they looked at me like I was an intruder. "Morning," I said, sliding into my cubicle. "Morning," one of the women, Tara, murmured back, eyes glued to her phone. She was the kind of person who made every word sound like it had a sharp edge. By noon, I realized everyone had gone to lunch without me. I ate my salad alone at my desk, pretending not to notice. It wasn't that I expected red carpets and friendship bracelets, but I'd hoped for something. Kindness, maybe. Instead, there were whispers, looks, the feeling of being watched but never welcomed. I told myself to shake it off. "You're here to work," I whispered under my breath, "not to make friends." But it stung. It stung every time I heard laughter stop when I walked in, every time Tara corrected me in meetings with that smug little smile. One afternoon, I overheard her say, "She acts like she's better than everyone, but did you see her car? Looks like it's one oil change away from retirement." I wanted to disappear. What they didn't know was that I'd sold nearly everything after my divorce just to make it here. My ex-husband had walked out one night after dinner, no warning, just a note on the counter that said, "You deserve someone who can make you happy." I'd begged God to show me why. Why I had to lose everything, my marriage, my home, my confidence, just to start over from scratch. But something inside me whispered, "Keep going." So I did. I stayed late at work, studying our campaigns, learning from data, pouring myself into every project. While they were out grabbing drinks, I was watching tutorials and reading case studies. One night, around 9 p.m., as I was gathering my things, the CEO, Mr. Brooks, walked by. "Still here?" he asked, surprised. "Yes, sir," I said, forcing a smile. "Just trying to get ahead on the Reynolds pitch." He nodded slowly. "That's good work ethic. Keep it up." That was the first kind word I'd heard in weeks. And something shifted. Over the next few months, my ideas started to land. Clients noticed. I noticed. I began to find my voice in meetings. Even Tara's smirk started to fade, though she still made sure I knew my place. One Friday, I overheard her again laughing with another coworker. "She thinks she's some big shot now. Give her a year, she'll be back flipping burgers." Something inside me broke. Not in anger, but in resolve. I stopped trying to prove myself to them. I stopped chasing their approval. I just worked, quietly, diligently. Months later, Mr. Brooks called me into his office. He told me he was retiring and he wanted me to take over as director of creative operations. Tara's face, when I announced it, priceless. But this story doesn't end there. Because when life gives you power, it also gives you a choice: revenge or redemption. And what happened next taught me which one truly lasts. The day I stepped into that corner office, I could hardly breathe. My name was on the door, etched in gold. Creative Director, Emily Carter. I ran my fingers across it and whispered, "Thank you, God." But the moment I sat behind that desk, I realized something. Power doesn't erase pain, it tests your heart. The first few weeks were a blur of meetings, new hires, and strategy sessions. I had a team of 12 now, including Tara. Yes, that Tara. When HR told me she'd be reporting to me, my stomach twisted. I dreamed of this kind of redemption, but I never imagined it would look like this. The first time she walked into my office, she couldn't even make eye contact. "Congratulations," she said flatly. "Thank you," I replied, keeping my voice even. "I'm glad you're still on the team." She forced a smile. "Yeah, me too." For a moment, I almost pitied her. Almost. But something inside me reminded me who I used to be. The woman who ate lunch alone, who cried in her car, who prayed for a chance. And now, here I was, sitting in the chair she once thought I'd never reach. That week, I learned what it meant to lead. People started looking at me differently, not because of my title, but because of how I treated them. One afternoon, one of the interns, a nervous girl named Jenna, spilled coffee on a stack of presentation boards right before a client meeting. Her face went pale. I'm so sorry, Miss Carter," she stammered. "Hey," I said gently, touching her arm. "It's okay. Take a breath. We'll fix it together." She blinked at me like she didn't believe it. "Really?" I smiled. "Really. Trust me, I've made worse mistakes." Tara was standing nearby, watching. She didn't say anything, but I saw it. The flicker of guilt in her eyes. Over the next few months, our team flourished. Revenue doubled, clients were happy, and somehow, in the midst of it all, I found peace again. But success can be lonely when no one expects you to have it. People from my past, old coworkers, even my ex-husband, started reaching out. Some congratulated me. Others just wanted to see if the rumors were true. One message caught me off guard. It was from my ex, Mark. "Hey, Emily. I saw the article about your promotion. You've come a long way. I'm proud of you." For a long moment, I just stared at it. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part wanted to ask why he left. But I didn't. Instead, I just replied, "Thank you. I hope you're doing well." And that was it. No fireworks, no closure, just peace. But not everything was peaceful at work. One morning, I walked into the office to find HR waiting by my door. "We need to talk," they said. My heart sank. Apparently, an anonymous complaint had been filed against me. Unprofessional conduct. I couldn't believe it. They wouldn't tell me who filed it, but I already knew. Tara. She'd been quiet for months, but I'd felt the tension simmering beneath the surface. Every compliment she forced, every "yes, ma'am" through gritted teeth, I should have seen it coming. I went home that night and sat at my kitchen table, head in my hands. For the first time in a while, I felt that old ache again, that sense of being misunderstood, unappreciated. Why, Lord? Why let me come this far just to be torn down again? But the next morning, something shifted. I realized this wasn't about Tara. It wasn't even about me. It was about what I'd do with the power I'd been given. So, instead of firing her, I called her into my office. She looked nervous, clutching her notebook like a shield. "Have a seat," I said softly. She sat. Silence filled the room. Finally, I said, I know you filed the complaint." Her head jerked up, eyes wide. "What? I didn't." "Tara," I interrupted gently, "you don't have to lie. I'm not here to punish you." She blinked rapidly, tears welling. "Why aren't you mad? After everything?" I leaned back, exhaling. "Because I know what it's like to hate someone for doing better than you. I've been there. I've felt left out, small, invisible." Her lip trembled. "You don't know what it's like." "I do," I said quietly. "You were the one who made me feel that way." Tears spilled over her cheeks. "I was awful to you, I know, but you made it look so easy, Emily. You just kept winning, and I kept shrinking." I felt a lump in my throat. "Tara, this isn't about winning or losing. It's about becoming better." She covered her face, sobbing softly. For a long time, I just let her cry. Then I handed her a tissue and said, "Let's start over, if you want to." She looked at me through red, wet eyes. "You'd really give me another chance?" "Yes," I said simply, "because someone gave me one too." That moment changed everything between us. She worked harder, spoke kinder, and for the first time, I saw glimpses of who she could have been all along. Months passed. We became an unstoppable team. People started joking that the company ran on grace and caffeine. I liked that. Then one day, out of nowhere, Mr. Brooks called me. "Emily, I'd like to talk business." He told me he was selling the firm, and he wanted me to buy it. At first, I laughed. "Me? I don't have that kind of money." He chuckled. "You do now. With your bonuses, savings, and the investor I lined up, it's possible. I've seen what you've done with this place. You're the future of it." That night, I prayed like I hadn't in years. Not out of fear, but gratitude. A month later, I signed the papers. I became the owner of the company that once made me feel worthless. And when payday came, I couldn't help but smile as I signed each paycheck, including Tara's. The irony wasn't lost on me. But as I handed them out, I said something I meant with my whole heart. None of us would be here without grace. Remember that. Because it wasn't about proving them wrong anymore. It was about proving that kindness, real, humble kindness, can win in the end. Still, there was one more chapter left. Something that would test every ounce of forgiveness I had left in me. And it started with a knock on my office door, one quiet Friday afternoon. It was around 4:30 p.m. on a Friday when I heard the knock. Most of the office had already left for the weekend. I was halfway through signing invoices when I looked up and saw him, Mark, my ex-husband. For a second, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. But no, it was him. Same blue eyes, same calm expression, though the years had carved a little regret into his face. "Hey," he said softly. "Mark?" My voice cracked before I could stop it. "What are you doing here?" He stepped inside, holding his hat awkwardly in his hands like a schoolboy. "I know this is unexpected. I was in town and I needed to see you." I stood, unsure whether to hug him or ask security to escort him out. "You could have called." "I know," he said, eyes dropping to the floor, "but I wasn't sure you'd answer." He was right. I probably wouldn't have. He looked around my office, taking in the awards, the photos, the plaque with my name. "You really did it," he said quietly. "You made it." I swallowed hard. "Yeah, eventually." Silence stretched between us like a tightrope. Finally, I asked, "What do you want, Mark?" He took a deep breath. "To apologize. Properly this time." I didn't say anything. I just waited. He stepped closer, his voice trembling. "When I left, I told myself I was doing it for you. I thought you deserved someone better. But the truth is, I left because I was ashamed. I lost my job, I was drowning in debt, and I couldn't stand seeing you still believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." The words hit me harder than I expected. He continued, "When I saw your name in that magazine, CEO, award-winning campaigns, I felt proud. But mostly, I felt small. You became everything I told you you couldn't be. And I'm so sorry I didn't stick around to see it happen." Tears burned my eyes, but I blinked them back. "You hurt me, Mark. You broke me in ways you'll never fully understand." "I know," he whispered, "and I'll carry that forever." For a long moment, I said nothing. Then I looked at him, the man who'd once been my whole world, and I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. "Mark," I said slowly, "I forgave you a long time ago. Not for you, but for me." He looked up, surprised. "I couldn't move forward if I kept dragging the past behind me. You taught me something without even knowing it. What strength looks like when no one's watching." He smiled sadly. "You were always the strong one." "No," I replied softly. "I just learned how to get back up." We talked for a while about life, family, the years we lost. He'd remarried, had a son. I was genuinely happy for him. As he stood to leave, he hesitated. "You know, I used to pray you'd find peace. Looks like you did." "I did. It just took a lot of breaking first." He nodded, smiled faintly, and left. When the door closed, I sat back and let out a shaky breath. My heart felt lighter than it had in years. That weekend, I went home to my small farmhouse outside the city, the one I'd bought after the promotion. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I spent Saturday morning tending to my little garden, watching the sun rise over the fields, the golden light spilling across the earth. As I wiped my hands on my jeans, I thought about how far I'd come, from crying in my car outside that office to owning the company itself, from bitterness to forgiveness, from loneliness to grace. Later that day, I got a text from Tara. "Hey boss, just wanted to say thank you again for believing in me. I don't take it for granted." I smiled. "You are doing great, Tara. Proud of you." If someone had told me years ago that I'd one day call her a friend, I would have laughed. But life has a way of softening even the hardest hearts when grace gets involved. That night, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, the sound of crickets humming in the distance. For the first time in forever, I didn't feel like I had anything to prove. But a thought crossed my mind, one that made me laugh softly. They tried to humble me, but I guess God had other plans. The truth was, they didn't humble me. Life did. Heartbreak did. Failure did. And through it all, I learned that humility isn't about letting people walk over you. It's about walking in grace even when they do. Months passed. The company grew. We opened new offices, hired more staff, and built a culture where kindness mattered just as much as performance. People often asked me how I did it, how I went from being the outsider to the one signing paychecks. I always said the same thing. You never forget the feeling of being underestimated. You just learn to let it fuel you. But deep down, I knew it wasn't fuel that got me here. It was faith. Quiet, unwavering faith that somehow all the broken pieces were being shaped into something beautiful. 1 year later, we hosted a company retreat. Everyone was there. Tara, Jenna, the new hires, even Mr. Brooks, retired but smiling proudly from the front row. As I stood on that stage, looking out over faces that once doubted me, I felt tears sting my eyes. I cleared my throat. A few years ago, I was the new girl in the corner cubicle, the one everyone thought wouldn't last a month. And honestly, I almost didn't. But something kept me going, something bigger than fear or pride. I paused, letting the silence settle. I learned that success isn't about proving people wrong, it's about proving that kindness still wins, that you can rise without stepping on anyone to get there, that grace, even when it's undeserved, changes everything. The room was quiet. Then, slowly, people started clapping. As the applause grew, I caught Tara's eyes in the crowd. She was crying and smiling. After the speech, she came up to me. "You changed this place," she said softly. I shook my head. "No, we did." We hugged, and I realized something I never thought I'd feel. Peace. True, deep peace. The kind that doesn't come from success or status, but from knowing you've finally forgiven everyone who tried to humble you, including yourself. That night, as I drove home, I passed by the little diner where I used to eat alone when I first moved to the city. I parked for a minute just to look. The same neon sign flickered in the window. Inside, a young woman sat alone at a booth, laptop open, eyes tired but hopeful. I smiled. I wanted to go in and tell her it would all be okay, that the heartbreaks and lonely lunches and late nights would one day make sense. But I didn't. I just whispered a quiet prayer for her, the same one I once prayed for myself. Keep going. You're closer than you think. Because sometimes the sweetest victories aren't about revenge or recognition, they're about redemption. And when I signed those paychecks every month, I didn't think, I showed them. I thought, we made it. Not by pride, not by luck, but by grace.